Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Imagine we are gathering around a virtual campfire right now, because tonight we're exploring the absolutely terrifying, supernatural ways our ancient ancestors understood their sleep. I mean, for the vast majority of human history, nobody had a clue why dreams happened. And the explanations they came up with to make sense of the night, they were downright chilling.
To really wrap your head around this, I want you to picture waking up in a dark, damp cave maybe 40,000 years ago. You are completely devoid of modern medical knowledge. You have no concept of science, zero psychology textbooks, and literally no understanding of what your brain is doing when you close your eyes. Outside, predators, brutal storms, and absolute pitch black darkness. Inside, you only have your mind.
So put yourself in their shoes for a second and ask yourself, how on earth would you react if, in that darkness, you fell asleep and a deceased loved one just suddenly appeared? What if they stood right there and spoke directly to you? For early humans, dreams were definitely not just an active imagination. They were incredibly real messages. Think about it. We spend nearly a third of our entire lives asleep. Today, we just accept that as biological reality. But without any science to lean on, our ancestors logically concluded that these super vivid nighttime visions were actual warnings from the universe. They thought they were spiritual visits or undeniable proof that an entirely different realm existed. It is a massive, fascinating contrast between ancient superstition and modern biological fact. Which brings us to part 1, when dreams were real. You know the feeling. In a dream, you might be flying through forests or surviving these absolutely impossible, dangerous events. Well, with literal predators right outside their cave, dreaming about surviving danger left our ancestors waking up with very real, pumping adrenaline. The emotions were physically pulsing through their bodies, but they didn't exactly have the vocabulary for neurons firing or REM sleep to explain why their heart was pounding out of their chest in a completely safe cave. So how did they rationalize those intense, lingering emotions? They genuinely believed the human soul literally left the body to travel to other dimensions during the night. It's a far cry from today, right? Now we just casually shrug and label the whole shebang as subconscious thought and standard REM cycles. And this belief had genuine, real-world consequences. A lot of ancient cultures were absolutely terrified of waking someone up suddenly. And it wasn't just about being polite. They sincerely believed that if you woke someone up too fast, their wandering souls simply wouldn't have enough time to snap back, and it would be locked out of their body forever. Let's move on to part 2, visits from the dead. Now, let's peel back the layers on one of the most unsettling parts of ancient sleep. Imagine losing a brother during a brutal winter. Days later, he appears in your dream looking completely alive, speaking normally, warning you of danger. Ancient tribes took this as hardcore, undeniable proof that the dead still existed somewhere. They thought darkness actually weakened the barrier between worlds. Today, medical fact tells us this is just the brain's standard psychological way of processing grief. But back then, undeniable proof of ghosts. And that leads us to part 3, the invention of monsters. Imagine this terrifying 3-step sequence. Step 1, you wake up in the pitch black, completely paralyzed. Step 2, your brain creates fear so intensely realistic, it feels entirely supernatural. You sense something breathing, something lurking in the corner. Step 3, because you have absolutely no medical framework, you naturally invent a monster to explain that terrifying presence in the room. What's really wild is how we basically just slap a modern sleep paralysis sticky note right over that terrifying ancient demon attack today. We define it clinically as a temporary inability to move or speak while waking up, which triggers terrifying hallucinations. But to an ancient human, let's be clear, this wasn't a medical condition. It was a literal demon sitting on their chest. Because they didn't know about sleep paralysis, diverse cultures all over the globe invented an entire roster of horrifying creatures to explain it. Shadow spirits, cave demons, night witches, soul stealers. In fact, that creeping primal anxiety about a presence in your room is exactly where our modern concept of the monster under the bed originally comes from. It traces back thousands of years. Part 4, surviving by our dreams. But dreams didn't just spawn monsters in the dark. Because they were treated almost like evidence from the gods, our ancestors didn't just wave them off over morning coffee. They made massive life-or-death decisions based on them. Dreams literally guided entire wars and perilous journeys. They dictated complex tribal rituals. Hunters used them to predict animal migrations. And shamans? They gained immense power within their societies, partly because they claimed they could decipher these cryptic nocturnal messages. Part 5. Science validates ancient fears. To our modern skeptical minds, making life or death choices based on a dream sounds pretty irrational, right? Well, modern neuroscience reveals they accidentally got something absolutely right. Scientists today still debate exactly why we dream, but the leading theories suggest we dream to process complex emotions, strengthen memory, simulate danger, and safely rehearse threats. That means nightmares likely evolved as a biological mechanism to literally prepare early humans for real-world survival against those predators outside the cave. When you compare the two, the picture becomes incredibly clear. The ancient myth saw dreams as crucial survival messages from spirits. Modern science sees them as biological simulations to prepare us for real threats. So, while our ancestors completely misunderstood the mechanics of how dreams worked, they actually hit the nail on the head by sensing that dreams were deeply connected to emotion, keeping them alive and preparing them for danger. Part 6. Why we still fear them. But here is the ultimate twist in our campfire story tonight. We still wake up and say things like, "Man, that dream felt real," or "I really think my dream meant something." Even with all our advanced medical knowledge and fancy sleep studies, we still jolt awake from bad dreams and say these exact phrases. It proves that a deep, primal part of our brain still reacts exactly like a caveman. Every single morning, we face this intense internal conflict. Rational thinking tells us, hey, it's just neurons firing. But dreams completely bypass rational, logical thinking. They speak directly to the emotional brain. They feel so intensely personal, so symbolic, and honestly, so supernatural that they trigger the exact same mysterious terror our ancestors felt. Ancient humans weren't stupid for fearing the night, not at all. They were just experiencing the exact same overwhelming emotional intensity that we do. The only real difference between a caveman shivering in the dark after a nightmare and us today, we just have a clinical label for it now. We call it psychology instead of spirits. For thousands of years, humans believed dreams connected us to another world. And honestly, when you really think about it, it is incredibly easy to see why. So the next time you wake up from a strange, vivid nightmare, think about how our ancient ancestors would have interpreted it. I want to turn this over to you now. Let's keep the conversation going. Let me know in the comments, what is the absolute most realistic dream you have ever experienced?